point is to hear from those in attendance that are wishing to speak on the issue. And then the Public Works Committee, the commissioners will opine if they see fit. I would say that, Cheltenham's a fantastic community, and I have the honor of representing, the neighborhood where, the garden in discussion will be discussed in a few minutes. And I think that we're very fortunate that we have a fantastic community. So I would just ask that when we do come up, we keep our comments, that we just make sure that we state our comments and that, we're mindful of everyone's opinion. So at this point, we'll just turn it over, and anybody wishing to speak, I would just ask that you just come up, give your name, where you reside, just what location of the township, and now's your opportunity to come and present your thoughts, comments, concerns about landscaping, gardens in the front yard to the township. Does anybody wish to speak at this time? And then the microphone you can probably pull down.
Do I have to get my name?
I'm sorry.
Do I have to get my name?
Yeah, you have to say your name and...
Cheryl Douglas, General Patterson Drive.
Thank you.
Most of the neighbors, we have a beautiful residential area in Cheltenham Township. The taxes are extremely high, as you know. All of our neighbors value their property value. We are concerned about this particular home only because we figure it devalues the property. That's the biggest concern. Okay, we would appreciate, none of the homes in that area, we all landscape the same. We basically have one landscaper, what was, that landscaped the whole street. Now it's divided a couple, but we basically landscape it and keep it clean, nice. And looking at this particular home, was like everyone else. Now it is not. There are gardens. I don't know, vegetables, everything else in front of there. It's an eyesore, and just don't particularly care for something like that in the front, which we're all concerned about. So basically, for the amount of taxes that we pay, this is truly an eyesore. There are other things going on. I cannot state what it is, but we would appreciate it if it would just be in the back of the home as opposed to the front of the home. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Does anybody have any questions for? Well, I do thank you for coming in, and please. Does anybody else at this point wish to? And thank
they
you.
Don't want to speak. I'm speaking on their behalf.
Understood. Do you mind if I ask you just one or two?
Sure.
Is there anything in particular? Obviously, you have stated that you would prefer the garden to be in the rear of the property, but Is there any specific aspects of it that maybe are more of a concern than anything else?
No, it was, I think one of the neighbors had inquired about why in particular, this would be placed in the front of the home, and I think it had to do with lighting or sunlight, which a neighbor 2 doors away receives the amount of light in the back of the home just as well. So the garden can be placed in the back of the home as opposed to the front of the home.
Gotcha. I do thank you. If you have nothing else, please, if you just want to,
Sure.
and we may invite you to come back up, but I do thank you for coming in, and we understand that you are representing neighbors this evening. Anybody else wishing to speak on this issue? And again, if you could just state your name and where you live in the township.
My name is Shanina McGloster, and I am the resident of the home with the garden. I wanted to come.
I'm sorry, would you be able to spell your name for Avery?
It's SHANEENA. And last name McGloster, MC, capital G, LOSTER. So I wanted to come today because, my family is experiencing a lot of difficulty with the garden that we have grown. And I just wanted to first say that I'm extremely disturbed as being my family and I, both 15-year collective military veterans. We made the decision to move back home and utilize our land because we had a child that has medical issues that we weren't able to do certain things in California because we weren't homeowners. So we are vegan, we do not eat meat. We were shopping at Whole Foods, and it's a lot different pricing out here than it is in California. A lot of the produce they do not carry. that my daughter needs. I decided to start a garden in the front because I know some properties have a barrier in the back, but ours does not. And we have deer and we have foxes out there. And I stay at home with my daughter, and she gardens with me because I homeschool her, and it's also part of her curriculum, which was a personal decision, which she is definitely benefiting from, and I think other kids can as well. And I was definitely concerned about her safety with the wild animals out back. And, you know, it could just be 1 second that I'm transplanting a plant, and she could kind of wander off into the backwoods. So I've only been here, I want to say, about 3 to 4 months. As I spoke with Commissioner Sharkey, I've told him I have plans to make it a bit more private and not so out in the open. However, I do have a responsibility as a mother to provide food for my family. So I'm doing the best I can. I've invested a lot of money into the appearance of the place. I bought raised beds that at 3 each were $100, and I have about, I want to say maybe 14. And it's still, honestly, I'm going to be 100% honest, not even enough food to feed my family. And I have to do more, but I already have a quote with Home Depot for a fence. That's an investment that, I'm going to be honest, our family cannot afford right now. And that is due to the taxes that have increased astronomically since the time we purchased the home in 2005. We also have to deal with issues of mold from the residents that were living there before us, and that's going to cost us about $12,000. We already had it inspected. So there's a lot of personal issues that I did not want to discuss today, but I wanted to come down because I did my best. Before I started this garden, I did my best in a few areas that I wanted to bring to your attention. Number one, I did my best to communicate with my residents as much as possible to see if we had a committee that I could talk to them before I even did the garden. I've received from most of the residents on my block, this was their comment verbatim, no, this block is boring. We go to Twickenham around the corner. I said, okay. So I said, there's no opportunity to have a gathering to discuss things. So I personally made it my duty as I was implementing my garden to kind of ask people their opinions. I received no correspondence via word of mouth from any of my neighbors that there was any problem from my garden. The first correspondence that I received from was Commissioner Sharkey. Being 27 years old and doing things that most 27-year-old people don't do, and I think it's because of my military background, I am bewildered by the lack of communication that I was able to have with my neighbors. And I am hurt serving my country that this is the level that I get to meet my city officials being complained on. I am a 100% disabled veteran. I was assaulted while I was deployed, and this is a form of therapy for my PTSD. I also post my videos online, and I motivate a lot of veterans, and I'm sure you guys are aware that 22 a day are committing suicide, and I'm trying to do my part to end that. Garden therapy has been a military tradition. It also is an actual therapy that is prescribed to us. So I understand that the appearance of the garden is not up to my neighbor standards, who sadly do not contribute to any of my bills or taxes that I pay. But the only type of compromise that I could come up with is that if they're willing to invest in the property so that it cannot be an eyesore for them in a timely fashion, because I'm not able to do that financially, and I ask that you guys understand that, then I will move it to the back if there is resources provided for me to do so. However, I want them to understand that I read planning and zoning, and I comply with all the regulations that were listed. And I feel very discriminated against that we would want to implement a new zoning against me, against my family, that has given 15 years of service to the country and deployed to Iraq. You know, we got out because the minute we had our child, we were both asked to deploy again. And we just wanted our opportunity to be with our child. We have took a dramatic decrease in income, being at home, work from home parents, both of us. As African Americans and a community that's kind of broken, we are trying to do something new as well, which is both being responsible for raising our child and being responsible for teaching her more than just what we've learned. You know, growing your own food is something that everybody could benefit from. Most of the time I spend my day talking to neighbors who are asking me what I'm doing, how to go organic. What I'm doing goes hand in hand with the Cheltenham Sustainability Program that we implemented in 2013 as a community, which we are a little behind on. I'm hoping to be a role model. I'm hoping to be a model example. I understand that to some people it might be a bit much, but what does it mean to be a sustainable community? I use rainwater. I do not water grass. Everything that I do contributes back to the economy, and I create compost. I told people I would rake their yard for free because I can use their leaves for compost. That can save money for the community that goes around and makes trips to collect these leaves that most people don't use because obviously we don't have gardens. So I would like an opportunity I would like to give these residents an opportunity to get to know who we are, get to know why we do what we do. That's the only compromise that I sadly can give to them, and I'm hoping that you guys can understand why I'm doing what I'm doing with my garden and give us the opportunity to appease everyone. But it is going to take some time. It's not something that we can do right away, but it is also something that I want you guys to consider I put a lot of work into. And it wasn't, when I started it, it was not to disturb anyone. It was not to create a ruckus. It was not to create a scene. And I understand that we have people complaining, but I want you guys to know that there are more people that are happy and awakened at what is going on. More people are so happy to finally speak to neighbors they haven't spoken to in 30 years. They're probably happy to speak to each other because of this very issue right now. And if it can bring us all together as a community to address other issues of, there's pretty much only one place I can get organic food from, and that's Whole Foods. That's a 20-minute drive. So I'm sorry to occupy a lot of you guys' time. I'm kind of not prepared because I wasn't prepared to receive such discrimination about what I was doing. I'm hoping that you guys can understand the necessity for my garden and the concern of the dangers that's presented by moving it to the backyard and the violation of what I believe is my constitutional rights to do what I would like to do on my property.
Thank you, Ms. McGloster, for coming in. Do you have anything else to say? And we'll get to Ms. Stamps and Ms. Ellis again in a moment. But do you have anything else to say at this point?
Thank you guys for
thank
serving the city. I appreciate it.
We do thank you. We do thank you for your service to the country.
I appreciate it.
Mrs. Stamps. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you mind just taking a seat for a moment? Thank you. Mrs. Stamps, and then we'll have come back. Mrs. Stamps.
Andrea Stamps, 513 General Patterson Drive, and I'm in Glenside. I just heard everything my neighbor said.
Could you?
Okay, pull it down.